Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to NCDIT for inviting us to the Cybersecurity Awareness Symposium this year. And thank you for joining our session. I see a few familiar names and some of our alumni here. So hello, everyone. So today, me and my colleague, Geoff Stoker, will talk about cybersecurity workforce development efforts at UNC Wilmington. Rob did a great job of introducing us. I'm Ulku Clark. I'm a professor of information systems at UNCW. I also currently serve as the director of Center for Cyber Defense Education. Geoff?
Yep. Hi, so Geoff Stoker, and you already heard, assistant professor with a little bit of background, tiny bit in the startup world for cybersecurity, and then a couple decades plus in the Army. Much of that spent working with computers and specifically cybersecurity. So let me get to the agenda. So we're going to start off talking about the CCDE, what it is, a little bit about the CAE-CDE designation, and I'll spell out what all those acronyms mean in a moment. Just so you have some context of where we're coming from. And then I'll hand it off. Ulku's going to talk our cybersecurity programs currently in effect and coming in the near future. She'll talk some workforce development, get into some of these acronyms here, and don't worry about what they stand for. We'll explain them, and then we'll kind of hand off back and forth talking about events. Ulku, I think, wraps it up. I guess we're sharing with the initiatives, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So CCDE is our Center for Cyber Defense Education. And we have a link there if anyone cares to browse to take a look at our website. We established the CCDE in 2018 as part of our effort to become designated by the NSA DHS as a Center of Academic Excellence for Cyber Defense Education. That program, the CAE-CDE program had several requirements, one of which was establishing a center, and then the center has kind of become over the last 3 years the focal point for a lot of efforts, from internal curriculum to internal workshops to then outreach with various webinars and our annual conference. Key to getting our center to run pretty well, I think, was establishing a cybersecurity advisory board. And I'm kind of just sharing this with you so you know that it's not just us sitting around trying to think of good ideas. We get a lot of input and feedback from the community, especially the business leaders. We get a lot of feedback from our recent grads or grads who are out there in the IT world, in the computer science world, in the cybersecurity world, actually doing this on a daily basis. Get a lot of good feedback to try to keep our programs fresh and up to date, focusing on the things that are most important. And, our mission, we thought very carefully about the mission before we created it, is to, we want to graduate folks who are qualified to be cyber defense professionals, and in addition, strengthen the aptitude of our entire community. So, not just the people we are graduating out of IT, but folks that are in nearby departments, folks that are running around on campus, that are doing staff functions, and folks that we touch just in the community as well. A little bit about the NSA DHS program. The program actually started quite a while ago. There were seven. There were seven initial schools back in 1999 when NSA started this program of trying to designate schools as centers of excellence. Back then it was information assurance. Now that term has kind of evolved to be cybersecurity. Overall, across the country, there's roughly about 4,000 or so universities that grant some kind of degree or certification, both at the 2-year, 4-year, and then graduate levels. And so of those 4,000, about 9% have gone through this process to get designated by the NSA/DHS. And then I have a little map for you of the North Carolina institutions that have done it. There are currently a total of 13, 6 4-year schools, 7 community colleges that have gone through this process as well. And it used to be the case that one of the kind of tricky things about seeking designation was you had to have a pretty well-established program for 3 years before you could even approach NSA and DHS to seek designation. I think that might be changing. I was looking yesterday at the current draft requirements, and maybe they're trying to accelerate that a little bit, but that's the process we went through. And so, you know, we had efforts ongoing for about a decade, you know, a little bit at first and then slowly growing before in 2018, the scales kind of tipped and we said, hey, let's go for this designation. And so this designation is good through 2023, at which time we will need to go through a redesignation process. I think Ulku, now you're going to talk about programs.
Yes. Oh, sorry, my mouse is a little sensitive there. All right, so at UNCW, we have 5 programs currently that we offer to our students. Some of them are new, some of them are established. The most established program we have is our IT major with the cybersecurity concentration. IT major has been offered, I think, for about maybe 10 years or more. And a couple of years back, we added the cybersecurity concentration. And cybersecurity concentration is the CAE designated curriculum path we have at UNCW. IT major is an interdisciplinary technical program that is offered by computer science program from College of Arts and Sciences and information systems program from business school. So our students take half of their core from CS faculty and the other half from the IS faculty, which is kind of like a great marriage of technical program with the managerial aspect of things. Some of the courses we have in the cybersecurity concentration focus on industry certifications, and the students completing this path, in addition to their IT major diploma from UNCW, they also receive a certification from NSA and DHS, indicating that they have completed the knowledge unit topics that we map to our courses. We also introduced about last year a security concentration to the CS major. Our CS major is more focused on software development. So the students in the security concentration of CS major are learning more, secure software development aspects of things. Cybersecurity minor, to this year, it was very much overlapped with our cybersecurity concentration. Even though it has been open to all UNCW students, we realized that cybersecurity cut across all fields. So for that reason, we are in the process of reinventing that minor, and we want to make it open to all students in a way that they can take courses that are related to their disciplines. So the core courses will be cybersecurity foundations and also policy, but in addition, students can pick cybersecurity related courses from their discipline, like the criminal justice students could take courses related to cybersecurity from criminal justice. Psychology students would take courses that are in their discipline. Education students, nursing students, business students, they can all learn about cybersecurity topics that are in their disciplines. The 4th cybersecurity program we have is the MBA program with the cybersecurity specialization. We are going to start offering the first class in this summer, and there will be 2 courses that are designated for cybersecurity. This is more geared towards managers because we understand that managerial buy-in is very important when implementing cybersecurity. So we would like to educate our executives in cybersecurity, and we want to have them, have some structured training in this field. And finally, our cybersecurity major, this is going to be launched in next fall of 2022. This is another interdisciplinary program between computer science and information systems. And this is actually the first cybersecurity undergraduate major offered in the UNC system. There are a bunch of other cybersecurity focused programs, but most of them are a concentration out of CS program or a concentration out of IT program. So this is the first cybersecurity undergraduate a Bachelor's of Science degree in the UNC system that is offered by UNCW. Again, some of our courses focus on industry certification. There will be 2 tracks. One track will be on applied cybersecurity, and this is going to be offered more by IS faculty. It will be managerial focus. We will be focusing on risk management, policy, cybersecurity program management type of things. And the other program or track is cyber operations, which will be more focused on the technical side of cybersecurity. So I wanted to also mention some of the titles our CE designated graduates have and the companies they work at. If you are interested in recruiting some of our graduates, please reach out to us. We would love to get this relationship established. So we have really ramped up the cybersecurity curriculum efforts with the breadth of programs that I just mentioned, but we also realized that most cybersecurity roles require work experience even at the entry level. So Wilmington is sort of a smaller city and away from most of the bigger cities. So for recruitment, we kind of had some, of course, challenges. And with that, we wanted to ramp up our apprenticeship, internship relationships with the recruiters. And so our Chief Information Security Officer at the university wanted to help us out, and we did submit a DoD grant. And with the funds we received from the DoD, we established an apprenticeship program at the UNCW IT Security. And we actually did this in collaboration with Cape Fear Community College. They have a cybercrime technologies program. So we wanted to have a pathway for their students to continue our 4-year BS in cybersecurity degree. And so with that program, we were able to add 4 seats to our Security Operations Center at the university. And the students in this program are mentored by UNCW IT security personnel. And this is a 2-year program. And they go through various trainings. They go through their instructional training through our coursework. And in addition, they have their on-the-job training at the University Security Operations Center. And upon graduation of this training, they graduate as workforce-ready employees. So I want to actually, focus on the apprenticeship program. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but maybe if about 5-6 years ago, Department of Labor really focused on increasing the apprenticeship programs, and under that we have they have developed a registered apprenticeship programs, and these programs are vary from state to state. Some states apply to it under the federal level, and some states apply to it under state level. In North Carolina, this is done at the state level. And when you become a registered apprenticeship program, there are some initiatives given by Department of Labor to your company. So through that, you have like some help and some funds geared towards this program. So we are in the process of registering our IT security apprenticeship program. I want to talk to you about these details in case you want to, develop an apprenticeship program and hire some apprenticeship. I believe most of the companies are kind of staying away from apprenticeship program with concerns like it takes a lot of time, it costs a lot of money, and at the end of the day, they don't really utilize it. I want to share with you this, graph here. Initially, yes, the apprenticeship wage probably doesn't cover the, amount of effort that is given to apprentices because the apprentices come into the program maybe not with much work experience, and there's a big learning curve in front of them. However, through the mentorship of the apprentices by the company employees or security employees, they do get the right amount of training, right amount of focus on what needs to be done at your company. And after a certain time, as you can see, the productivity curve really ramps up, and they become really, valuable employees of the company, even through their apprenticeship program. And at the end of the apprenticeship program, you actually have the chance to observe this employee as a potential employee, 1 to 2 year, period to observe them. And if you really are happy with their performance, then they are perfectly ready to start working for your company, and you can recruit them, and this would be like a wonderful relationship. A lot of the companies that have apprenticeship programs can attest to that. If you are interested in establishing a registered apprenticeship program, there are 2 main parts of it. One of them is related instructional training or related technical instruction, where the apprentices go through some educational aspect of things, and with that they learn the technical details that they need to know to do the job. And the other part of the apprenticeship program is on the job training, where they are actually working on the tasks hands-on. Most of the time, the apprenticeship programs are offered in the outside the, academic environment. So with that, when you hear about the apprenticeship programs, they talk about 2,000 hours of apprenticeship. And when, of course, the employers hear about 2,000 hour requirement, everyone is like, oh, wow, how do we offer that? And if you think of it, it is almost like 1 year full-time employment. However, there are different variations of it. So with that, you can do a time-based apprenticeship where you would need to meet the 2,000 hours or 6,000 hours, how many ever hours that you want to offer. However, if you want to do it competency-based, you can determine the competencies that you want the apprentices to complete during the apprenticeship program, and as they meet those competencies, they can advance to the next level of the apprenticeship. So we are in the process of registering our apprenticeship program, and the way we structured it is our RIT or RTI maps into the coursework of BS Cybersecurity. So the students are completing the foundational work in their core courses, and then as they go through the program, they can also complete the advanced courses, and they complete the RIT part with the coursework. And on the jobs training is done at the IT Security Center when they are working as apprentices there. In an attempt to help our partners, we have a number of companies that are recruiting from us, and they are also interested in becoming registered apprenticeship program. So in an attempt to help them, we actually want to have our RIT or RTI or the coursework registered as pre-apprenticeship program. So the companies that partner with us would only have to offer the OJT part of the program to have their programs as registered apprenticeship programs. Now I want to hand it to Geoff, who is going to talk about the pre-apprenticeship efforts in more detail.
Okay, thanks, Ulku. So first thing, while listening to Ulku and looking at that great graph, I realized when I put these slides together, it's on me. I didn't attribute where we got that from. That's not something we made up. I want everyone to know. There was a paper we'd read from 2019, someone named Lerman, and they evolved that from somebody named Gambin back in 2010. And so that graph you had previously looked at, this is now our kind of little evolution on the graph because we love it. We think it very concisely explains what we're trying to do in an apprenticeship program and where we think the benefits are, where we think the costs are. And so 2 slides ago when Ulku talked about CCAP, as we worked on our CCAP project, it kind of naturally evolved into PCAP, and she was, she kind of gave a nice segue into that. I guess first let me talk about the graph. Notice now that there's a little cut in the employer cost portion of the curve that's underneath the apprentice wage. And our thought here is that by, when students go through education related to cybersecurity, unless there's kind of a standard way of knowing what they know, I think employers can feel very unsure of what they're getting. And so security certifications like Network Plus, CCNA, Security Plus, so forth, so on, can provide a nice, clear demarcation of what exactly they know. And of course, they might know more, but they know at least that. And that's what that vertical, I guess it's a blue line, is trying to show as the certification advantage. And we're not the only ones who are doing this. There are other institutions who are trying to encourage their students to take what they've learned from their coursework and go out and seek additional proof, or like I guess universally understood proof, like a certificate that they know something. And we've also added this kind of declining remaining RTI. You can call it RIT, RTI, whatever you like. But of course, they need to know something, and that should go down as time goes on while they're working through their apprenticeship, so that at the point where they hit the point where you consider hiring them, all that should be mostly out of the way. And that's what that right-hand axis is trying to show, right? The pile of books at the top is all the stuff they need to know, and then as time goes on, they need to know less and less, because hopefully they've learned it. So as part of our PCAP, one of the things I kind of wanted to share, there's nothing I think interesting and unique about wanting to educate, train, and have the students practice, take their knowledge and apply it and practice real skills. But what we found is that students are a little bit gun shy, right? Like, nobody wants to take an exam and fail it. There's kind of a real cost in terms of dollars. And then there's a bit of a personal cost, right? Like, just simply nobody likes to fail. I don't like to fail. And so we thought long and hard about, how do we incentivize the students without allowing them to get off scot-free? Like, we've seen some programs where a bunch of money gets pushed at an idea, and they just pay for vouchers, and then students may not prepare as vigorously as they ought to, and then you start having a creeping failure rate on this idea. So we've come up with this idea of cost share. We have two little programs that appeal to different personalities as far as the students go. One, which I have listed here, is a simple cost share. We say, look, we would like, this course is helping you prepare for this certification. We're including some questions during class of the kinds they would see on a certification exam. And we say, you pay 25% of the cost, and we, the CCDE, will pay 75% of the cost. And there's a certain kind of personality student who seem to warm to that idea. Like, okay, I got a little bit of skin in the game, so I'm going to prepare real hard. But a lot of the financial burden of getting it is lifted, and so it's easier to encourage them to go do it. And then there's another group, I don't have it listed here, but another one where we say, look, if you think you can pass it, take it and pass it, and then once you've passed it, submit it, and we'll reimburse you. And so for them, sort of the skin in the game is up front. It's all on them if they fail. But of course, the ones that are confident, they pass and they get 100% of it paid. And we're just kind of getting through this. We've had 3 people go through this and successfully get the Security Plus certification. And now we've got 2 more in the pipeline. And of course, we've got, since we just started this incentive over the summer, we see it ramping up and people are very interested. I also share, there's the question of, well, where do you get the money to do this, right? Like, does Ulku make that much? Do I make that much? So the advisory board members got very excited about what we were doing. because sometimes you ask people for money and they're like, okay, here's some money. We're not really sure what you're doing. This is a very tangible thing. People are very excited about helping students, but also very excited to see something, tangible and actually happening. And so we have found, at least, that amongst our advisory board and amongst other partners that we have, that this idea seems to be well accepted across the board. And so that's pretty much, where I think the rubber meets the road in this PCAP initiative is in, getting people out the door with certificates, cutting off some of that initial tail of employer cost when they hire an apprentice. So that, like, hey, you're getting at least this. And it seems to be pretty much win-win-win across, the school, the student, and the employer. So then there's an initiative. Some of you may have seen this. NC State led a proposal that NSA DoD had released, offering $2 million over 2 years to do something, good in the field of cybersecurity. And so NC State reached out to the various public institutions in North Carolina and put together a coalition. All those schools you see listed there, in case you don't know, I'll just run down. So it's NC State, East Carolina, Fayetteville Tech Community College, and North Carolina A&T. Of course, I'm going to fail here. Pembroke, I think that is.
Pitt.
What is it? Oh, Pitt. Sorry. Pitt Community College. Thank you. UNC Charlotte, us, and then Wake Tech. So all those schools have gone through the NSA DHS designation process. They all have been designated as centers of excellence. Lori Williams up at NC State managed to herd the cats and wrangle us all together for about a month's worth of work back in the March-April timeframe, thinking about, what is it we could do on kind of a statewide basis? Because, of course, you're hearing a little bit about what we're doing, and you'll hear more about that here shortly, specifically what we've been doing. And you may have heard about, UNC Charlotte runs a great symposium every year. And Wake Tech has a fantastic program, all these little different individual efforts, but what can we do collectively? And so, we came together and basically created this pool of money from which we can present our best ideas. And amongst the group, yes, thank you. Somebody just typed all that in. Appreciate it. Yes. Foresight. Sorry about that. Put this pool of money in to approach the board basically and to seek to go after what are the best ideas. And so these are some of them. I don't want to get too bogged down here, but you can see the different areas: education, research, service, outreach. You can see the different areas that folks have had ideas with. And then what I've got highlighted there are just the areas that we in particular think we have something that we can bring to the table and will benefit certainly the Southeast, but also North Carolina more broadly. So you've heard us talk about apprenticeship and what our ideas are regarding that, and how we've slowly made different partners. We've kind of pioneered different programs, and we try to share with others what we're doing. So hopefully that's something that can be replicated if they don't already have the idea themselves. The idea of a SOC, a Security Operations Center, is one that folks at NCAMT have successfully done elsewhere, and then I think also at their school. And it's something that we're very interested in as well, because there's a whole lot of small and medium-sized businesses that could really use some help. And it's prohibitively costly for a lot of the services that are being offered out there right now, for things like network monitoring or vulnerability scanning, or just help with policy writing and how do we put controls in place to make our business more secure. And then I'll just mention one more, CMMC. Some of you may have heard of this. Ulku on the next slide is going to talk about a panel we recently held on this. But it's part of, in fact, I won't talk much more about it. I'll just say that we think we have a little bit of expertise locally in understanding how CMMCs works, how the Department of Defense works. So it's another little area where we think we have something to offer. And if you're interested, if you haven't seen the press release, want to read a little bit more about it, we've got the link down there. It's a little bit lengthy, but you can probably web search it and find it as well. So Ulku, back to you for CMMC.
Thank you. So we want to also give you like a sample of some of the recent events that we have organized. In March of this year, we had a CMMC webinar. So with all the supply chain cybersecurity issues and everything, DoD especially has had really issues with the supply chain partners of DoD, particularly defense industrial base partners. Previously, they were required to self-attest to their cybersecurity efforts. However, that proved not to be sufficient, and with that they moved to CMMC, which is Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, and there are 5 levels of CMMC compliance, and level 1 is required from all the IB partners. It is basically, I guess, basic cyber hygiene. So in this webinar, we invited industry experts, and we talked about the CMMC requirements. And we actually want to have this an annual event because the CMMC requirements keep changing. It is obviously something that is maturing, as its name suggests. And so we would like to make sure that we keep all our community aware of all these changes happening. In addition, as a part of that NC PACE, we would like to have our community have some of the CMMC workshops or training that our faculty offers. So I believe Geoff is going to talk about the next event.
Yep. So we're just trying to share with you, different kinds of things we've been doing. So in August, we held a panel, and this is now just you can all sympathize or empathize with this kind of back and forth in the world of COVID. Intended to have this panel, in person, and the week before we had an event on campus that was in person, and then suddenly, Delta's ramping up, and so we did it kind of mixed. So you can see a photo of the folks who decided to come out, and then of course we had a bunch of people online. So about 100 people showed up to talk with this panel, specifically about cyber loss prevention. And the panel included somebody from the North Carolina Justice Department, an FBI agent, a lawyer, William Weatherall, who's our university CISO. But I put this slide in here not specifically to say, oh, look, we did this cyber loss prevention webinar. And by the way, we do have this recorded if anybody has any kind of interest in this kind of a thing. But just to show, like, this is the kind of thing regularly we're trying to do, to reach out to, especially in the Southeast, local community businesses, to help them out understanding, what kinds of things they need to be concerned about from different perspectives, right? What at the state level are the justice folks seeing, and what kinds of trouble do people get into, if they're not keeping certain kinds of logs, or if they're not reporting certain kinds of incidents, or what to do if they run into some sort of incident. Same kind of thing with the folks from the FBI. And then, just lots of good information about folks that work more closely on a day-to-day basis, like our CISO, like Rob Duggan, who's a bit of an auditor. And I think that's all I want to say about this particular event.
Yeah, I also want to add that this event was sponsored by some of our partners, Ernie and Warden Smith. So that was, very helpful for us to organize additional events to the community. Another recent event that we had is a workshop, and this was offered by an incident response engineer from Trend Micro, and he talked about how to know if you have been hacked. So he went over the details of how you can determine if your personal computer shows any signs of intrusion. This was mostly attended by our students, but we also had some attendees from the community. And again, these type of events vary in the technical expertise level or the managerial expertise level. And we try to address all different levels of cybersecurity experts, all the way to, you know, like people just are interested and want to learn more about cybersecurity. And our upcoming event is the Cybersecurity Awareness Conference. Geoff is going to introduce that.
Okay. Yeah, so we've been, since we got designated, we've tried to run an event during October, the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This is our third one that we're running. The first one we were able to run in person, obviously 2019 pre-COVID, had about 80 people, and then last year forced to go virtual. This year we decided to go virtual. We hemmed and hawed about it, but it's going to take place on Saturday, October 23rd. That's the primary event. It's an all-day event. We've got 2 keynote speakers. You can see them listed there. 3 panels that I think Ulku is going to talk about. Next slide. And then the day before, we've got a workshop with the same Trend Micro engineer who's going to talk about a different topic, but he's got a nice little workshop that folks can do some hands-on learning the day before. And I guess I'll just mention, this is something that we started, and of course it's well received by the attendees. It's always good to get together to, if not to hear new things that are brand new. Some people, of course, always learn something brand new if they're first hearing about cybersecurity, but oftentimes just making connections and finding people who can help you when you have certain kinds of problems. We found in particular being able to go back to previous conference attendees when different issues come up has been extremely helpful. And then, so Ulku, you want to talk about the panels a little bit?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, that workshop on the 22nd is going to go over phishing email investigation. So if you are interested in it, please go to our website and register for the event. And also please register for the conference. It is going to take place on a Saturday. We have done these events on different days, but during the weekday, a lot of people gave the feedback that they could not attend because it's coincided their weekday. So we have been doing the conference on a Saturday for the past 2 years. Hopefully we would, we will see you in our conference this year. In addition, we also partner with Circadians. They have some product called Project Eris, and within that product, they have a gaming education environment. So the first 25 interested registrants will have access to their environment for 2 weeks. So if you are interested in registering for our event and interested in sampling that product, please make sure you select that option when you register. So the panels that we are going to have in our conference are cybersecurity threats. So the first panel is going to have 4 speakers from IBM, Honeywell. Adrian is actually, she used to work for the government, and she is now establishing her own company, and Ed Liz from Northrop Grumman. So they will talk about the current trends and current cybersecurity threats that are out there. And then the second panel is going to be moderated by Geoff, and we will have speakers from ACM Cyber, Raytheon, Ernie and Company, and Sino, and Project Eris. And they are going to talk about what are the companies doing to battle these threats or current trends currently. So that will be followed by our third panel, and our last panel is going to cover the compliance issues. which is, like covering what are the regulations and laws, federal, state level, are requiring the companies do minimally to fight with these current threats. And the moderator for this event is, panel is going to be our Chief Information Security Officer, William Wetherell, and the panelists will be Al Rotlisberger from NC.DOT, Ron Lafont from CISA. We will have an attorney from Morgan Smith and Andrew Hoover from CERT. And Geoff is going to talk about some of our, we are going to actually share this discussion. Geoff, I think you will introduce IL4C.
Yep. So this is our last content slide. Just wanted to hit a couple things. So IVLE4C. So this is, I guess I didn't spell out the acronym. It's a virtual learning environment. And just in case you're curious about that acronym, if you say the word I will foresee, and maybe do it like you're from Bavaria, I will foresee, you'll kind of get the idea behind the acronym. And it's just something we're building here. It's hard to teach students to lift their heads up and think about enterprise cybersecurity. They're very good about thinking in a network-centric way, thinking about the different network endpoints, thinking about switches and routers and computers, access points, but hard for them to understand how it fits in the greater context of an enterprise that's there to make money providing a service or providing products, and that you can't just shut everything down when there's a cybersecurity problem. So how do you look at the enterprise holistically and think about cybersecurity from that perspective? So that's all I'll say about that. That's something that is a fairly new initiative that we're working on. Ulku, you can talk about CEDI? CDI?
Yes. So CEDI is another NSA grant. Fordham University runs this program, and this program is designed to increase the cybersecurity education in minority schools. So we are partnering with Fordham University, and we are reaching out to North Carolina minority schools, first to help them with their cybersecurity education, help their faculty get some training and share our resources with their faculty, and also through articulation agreements, so we can have those community college students continue their four-year education at UNCW in BS Cybersecurity. We also understand that most of the time community college students are the students that are native to that region, and they might have roots, they might have family, they might not be able to move to Wilmington for face-to-face education. So we are also at the moment exploring our online options for the BS in cybersecurity degree, so we can offer BS in cybersecurity both in traditional sense or completely online. Geoff, I think you are going to introduce JROTC.
Yeah, so probably all of you know that JROTC programs exist out there in area high schools. All the services have them. As far as I know, the Army's JROTC program in particular has launched a cyber initiative where they're trying to push down further and further, down lower education levels to get folks spun up more quickly on technical skills, to the point where it's a pretty ambitious program. They want to have it where high school students are getting their Security Plus certification, which you heard me talk earlier about. It's hard for a little bit for some of the college students to feel confident that they know enough to go do it, which is still an entry-level certification. But I guess as I thought about this, I realized many decades ago, folks in industry, folks at the highest levels of academia were the ones doing computer programming and looking at computers. And it wasn't until the early 80s that computers got pushed down, and then people in high school began to program, and probably at first the same kind of a deal, like, what, high schoolers are going to program? We have a local school, North Brunswick. They are on the Order of Merit list, and so this is just another one of the initiatives and partnerships we have where we want to help support high schoolers to seek early these certifications, this gaining of specific cybersecurity knowledge. And Ulku is going to cover the last one, I3C.
Mm-hmm. So I believe a couple of presentation ago, Laura Rogers from NCMBC had a presentation. So if you listen to her, probably she talked about I3C. So NCMBC is North Carolina Military Business Center. And under that, Laura has built that I3C group, which is Interagency Cybersecurity Coordinating Committee. That group is addressing CMMC needs of the defense industrial base. And recently they, they have reached out to us to become a partner of I3C group, and we partnered with them recently, and we are going to offer the CMMC workshop to the DIB members of NCMBC under that effort. So that's all we have for our presentation today. Now we would love to answer any questions you might have.
Hey, attendees, if you have any questions, please, as we mentioned earlier in the session, if you could just stick those into the chat feature. But I'm going to go ahead and start off with a couple myself. And I want to just first start off by saying we covered a lot of ground, and you all have been quite busy in Wilmington. So kudos to you. Hats off to all the accomplishments that have transpired over the past 2-3 years. I love the Army JROTC program, cyber program. Along those lines, military veterans make up a deep and wide talent pool, especially Air Force veterans, Geoff, whose discipline and training lend themselves well to careers in cybersecurity. With respect to that particular talent pool, can you speak to any outreach efforts related to military members transitioning off of active service or populations that are currently underrepresented in the cybersecurity profession?
You want to take that, Geoff?
It's funny, right? When there's two people, you're never sure, right? You have two watchers. What time is it? Okay, so first, I just want to say, it was a Marine veteran at UNCW who poked us and said, "Hey, how come we are not an NSA DHS designated school?" And so fortunately, maybe by North Carolina, I think in whole is fortunate. We have some pretty good military representation. We are pretty close to Lejeune. We're not too far away from Fort Bragg, and so we already have pretty nice relationships. We have a military affairs department here run by Bill Kaczynski, who does a lot of outreach. And you're exactly right. Like we're aware of that and recognize that reaching out to folks transitioning out of the military are a great resource for the cybersecurity field. What's a little bit more maybe non-obvious to folks, and I'll mention the other groups that are underrepresented. As we've the whole country, of course, is become more aware of like, hey, how are the different groups represented in different fields, and is it correct or is it not correct? Should we have more representation? Should we not? There are some community colleges that are pretty close to us that have a surprisingly large number of, say, Hispanics or Lumbee Indians, or groups that maybe you don't think of at the first blush. And so we've done a little bit of outreach to them, but then interestingly, they've come back very strongly in some cases. Obviously very interested, very hungry to be involved, very interested in being involved. Ulku, do you want to pile on to that at all?
Sure. Actually, we have a good number of veterans, and Bill Kaczynski is working really hard to increase the involvement of our programs to kind of upskill the veterans and have them especially get involved in cybersecurity field, because I guess by default they come with some security clearance, and he wants and it is kind of, I guess, a natural relationship to have them move towards cybersecurity career. And we recently have been reached out by some people from military, and we want to establish some of the apprenticeship recruitment relationship with them, so our students could be placed in those careers coming from, military background, going towards that direction as well.
Thank you for that. And I want to call everybody's attention to the information that Kelly Gardner posted on in the chat function, the 3rd Annual Cybersecurity Awareness Conference for UNCW. There's a link right there for everybody's convenience. Sticking with the theme of the cybersecurity major that will be coming into existence in the fall of next year. Just in the past week alone, I've provided education and career advice to several individuals who are either nearing completion in a non-technology, non-engineering undergraduate degree program, or who are mid-career in a non-technology field. How would you describe the value proposition of UNCW's either apprenticeship programs or its new cybersecurity major to those two separate and distinct populations?
Geoff, go ahead and take a stab at it.
Yeah, sorry, I went first last time. So one interesting thing that I don't know if I'm slow on the uptake. Maybe this has occurred to many other people, but only recently when we decided to do a cybersecurity major, did it force me to think, like, do people do cybersecurity? Like, if like Rob, you and I were like, hey, let's go do chemistry. We know what we're going to go do, right? We're going to go get chemicals. We're going to mix them together. I mean, whether or not we know what we're doing, we know the thing we're going to be doing. But cybersecurity is sort of this thing you do while you're doing something else. Like, hey, I want to run a business. Well, guess what? You better do it safely. And now you better do it securely from a cyber perspective. And it goes, so what is cybersecurity, right? Is it kind of a discipline like law? Like, no one goes and does law. People go and do things, and then the law has to get involved because, like, oh, is this a fair transaction? Did I wrong you? And so it is very interesting because it felt very much like a technical thing, and now more and more it's becoming clear to people. No, everyone does whatever they do, whether it's run a cupcake business, whether they're driving a truck, and if they're using devices, they have to know and be a little bit concerned about cybersecurity. And so the cybersecurity major proposition is sort of, I'm beginning to think of it as sort of like the idea of, like, why do we have lawyers? Well, at some point way back in human history, we didn't have lawyers, and within each little field, like the merchant field or whatever, the farmer field, they would settle disputes on their own. And eventually someone realized, like, hey, we need laws, we need a body, we need people who are specialists in this. And so I think that's where the major comes into play. I don't want to say they're going to be lawyers, hopefully I'm not offending anybody one way or the other with that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I think about the major anyway.
Okay, well, taking a look at the time, we have about 1 minute left. I'd like to use that minute to, again, thank both of you all for being here today and coming alongside us with this symposium. I think it's very important for all of our attendees to be aware of what capabilities exist in the state of North Carolina and the good things that are happening on the coast. I'd like to turn it over to you all for any closing thoughts before we wrap up the session.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having us here today. And then, as I believe most of the attendees are IT and cybersecurity professionals. So with that, I would really like to get some recruitment relationship established with your company. So if you are in need of any cybersecurity apprentices, interns, please reach out to us so we can maybe start that relationship and have our students have that on-the-job training experience. And in addition, if you are a small, medium-sized business owner or employee, most of the time, of course, you need managed service providers. In our advisory board, we have a good number of people that run consulting services, so we can definitely help you establish that relationship so you can get the help you need for your company. And again, we would love to see you in our upcoming events, and thank you for having us today. Geoff?
Yeah, I don't think I can add much to that. thanks everyone. It was lots of fun. Hope to see you down the road. We're all pulling, I hope we're just pulling one oar here, all in the same boat. You know, excited to be a part of cybersecurity North Carolina in general.